Welcome. Hi there. My name is Adam Riley, and as you can see, I'm the Deputy Undergraduate Admissions Officer for the School of Law. I am just going to talk for, perhaps 15 or 20 minutes, giving you a broad outline of our programs and hopefully getting to answer some of your questions towards the end of the presentation. Firstly, welcome. I'm glad so many of you have been able to make the time to come and engage with this. I have to say, I don't feel as though I can live up to that countdown. I myself was watching it thinking, wow, something wonderful is going to happen. And then I just see my face immediately and oh no. Before I get on to the specifics of the program, however, I know that, a good number of you are prospective common law students thinking about coming here to study on our common law program. And quite a few of you on the Scots Law program won't necessarily be living in Glasgow at the minute. So I just wanted to say a quick couple of things, or not even a couple of things, just one thing really. Keep in mind, with choosing to come and study at the University of Glasgow, Glasgow is itself a wonderful city, but remember, it's only a 45-minute train ride to Edinburgh. And therefore, you've really got to think about, where do I want to live for the next 2 years, perhaps even 4 years potentially, depending on your program. And just one thing to keep in mind is the fact that Glasgow and Edinburgh are, one is a suburb of the other. And so that's something to keep in mind as to where you're going to be living. Think of both the wonderful opportunities and sights to see in both Glasgow and Edinburgh. Never mind our access to the Trossachs and Loch Lomond. And, of course, you have your choice between Glasgow and Edinburgh as regards transport hubs for travel throughout the UK and Europe. So just something to keep in mind that, one factor to have at the forefront of your thoughts is, where are you going to live and what's it going to be like living there? And perhaps some of our students who are going to join us on the call for the Q&A session can talk to that, their experience of living in Glasgow. And the other small point is that the West End of Glasgow has its own vibe, its own feel. It feels like you're in a kind of smaller village within the wider city. So just things to keep in mind. Turning now to our law degree programs. I'm going to be talking in very broad terms for a moment. But the first thing to note is that the University of Glasgow is, of course, an ancient university, an ancient institution that has been teaching Scots law since the medieval period. The common law program is much more recent, began life in 2019, but nonetheless, that institutional experience, the structure of the program, a great deal of thought has gone in over a great period of time. So you can have confidence in our programs. And the size of the school as well is another factor to keep in mind, that whichever program you're studying on, it's a very large school, the School of Law. I think we have almost 100 members of academic staff. So the University of Glasgow, as an ancient institution, still has a degree of heft when it comes to staff recruitment and staff retention. And therefore, we've got a great wide range of expertise and research expertise. So you can look forward to the fact that no matter what aspect of law you're going to be studying, whether it's public or private law, contract through to administrative law and constitutional law, never mind international law, all of our teaching is research-led and informed by the number of great scholars that we have at the School of Law. So let's talk about the 4-year programs. And whilst I'm talking about this, I'm effectively also going to be talking about the 2-year accelerated programs for those of you that already have a prior degree in some other subject and are looking therefore to get a qualifying law degree in the first 2 years. I'm going to talk about the programs in abstraction for a moment, and then I'll talk about the specifics of qualification afterwards. So thinking of a 4-year degree for a moment, what you need to do is realize that it's a game of two halves. Effectively, the first couple of years are when you study all of the subjects that go towards earning a qualifying law degree. That's why you can get a qualifying law degree after just 2 years of study if you're on our accelerated program. So everything from your contract law, constitutional law, the law of tort or delict in Scots law, your property law, the law of trusts and succession and land law, land registration, all of these subjects that you are required to have studied in order to qualify as a practitioner in a given jurisdiction, you cover in the first couple of years. That means that the first couple of years are something of a set menu, if you like. There's relatively little choice for you to customize your own program. There are a couple of spots where you have an optional module, but there aren't that many. It also means that you're going to be hitting the ground running. And this is not unique to the University of Glasgow, I should add. Wherever you study, you will hit the ground running in your first couple of years, because every degree structure in Scotland for Scots law, and most degree structures throughout England and Wales, we are unique in Scotland in having a 4-year undergraduate honours programme. Most universities in England have a 3-year programme, but all of them will have you hitting the ground running. So please don't think that anything strange or unfortunate is happening here. You're going to be hitting the ground running in the sense that you're going to be immediately studying, whether from school or a prior university degree or some break or period away from study. You're going to be having to study and be assessed in subjects that you will need to earn a qualifying law degree. So the first couple of years really do count. The latter couple of years is almost the complete inverse. There are no set restrictions. In fact, you must choose every module that you are going to be studying in the latter 2 years. And again, this is where the size of the school comes into its own, because each member of staff is asked to develop a module reflecting their own teaching interests. And therefore, the bigger the school, the more impressive the academics we can recruit, the more choice that we have at levels 3 and 4. And I would just encourage you to Google Glasgow University Law course catalogue, and you'll be able to see the sheer volume and number of modules that we have at levels 3 and 4. The key point here is that when you hit level 3 or 4, one of two things has happened. Either you loved absolutely everything that you studied in the first 2 years of your qualifying law degree, if you like, and you want to maintain that sense of variety. Glasgow can accommodate that. We've got so many courses that you can have a wide array, a wide selection from which to choose. The alternative is, and this is not infrequently the case, you utterly loved public law, constitutional law, administrative law, anything that concerned the relationship between the individual and the state, human rights law, and you utterly detested private law. In a much smaller university, you would be potentially in a bit of a tricky situation whenever you get to levels 3 and 4, because there might not be that wider range of modules specifically for public law, maybe specifically for criminal law, specifically for human rights law. But when you have a look at our course catalogue, you'll see that we could accommodate both choice and variety and specialization. If I just wanted to study criminal law for 2 years in my level 3 and 4 bit of the degree, then I can do so. I can do so. If I'm a little bit more interested in human rights law, international human rights law, I can spend the last 2 years of my degree purely studying human rights and international human rights law. So I'm saying that either way, whether you want to be the generalist or you want to be a specialist, there is plenty of variety for you at levels 3 and 4. Now, keep in mind, a law degree, when it comes to looking for jobs, and I'll be talking about jobs a little bit later on, but if you're interested in practicing as a lawyer, because law firms, even in England and Wales, and I'll come to this in a moment or two, they still think in terms of a qualifying law degree. They still want to see what you got in your contract law, as well as your criminal law, as well as your land law. Because even a criminal law firm wants to see that you have a degree of latitude and flexibility, so they'd actually maybe be quite interested in your land law, particularly if you hated it. Because if you can grin and bear land law, you can survive almost anything. So when you're looking for a job in law firms or barristers' chambers, they're going to want to look at the grades in the first couple of years of your study, but they also want to see what modules you chose when the ball was entirely in your court and it was entirely up to you to select. So it's something to keep in mind that levels 1 and 2 and levels 3 and 4 are all important in slightly different ways for the next steps of your career, whatever those steps may be. But one thing to keep in mind is that the ultimate classification of your degree as a first-class degree or a 2-1, etc., it's really the latter 2 years of study that matters for your honours degree, for your honours classification. Okay, so grades at 1 and 2 still matter when it comes to applying for jobs in law firms. They want to see what you've done in your qualifying law degree. But strictly, the classification of your degree comes down to what you choose in years 3 and 4. So, as I say, Glasgow University can accommodate most people's spheres of interest. Now, that's the big point. 4-year degree program, a game of 2 halves. For the accelerated cohort, you're obviously only sticking around for the first 2 years, and therefore, I'm afraid, relatively little variety for you. There are a couple of optional spots, but there aren't that many optional spots. There aren't that many gaps in the syllabus. But when there are gaps in the syllabus, you still have a reasonably good choice of optional modules at levels 1 and 2, including Roman law, things along those lines. So something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk a little bit about joint honours programs. And I'm really just going to make 2 key points here. When you run a joint program with law and language, one thing to keep in mind is that your 3rd year must be spent studying abroad in an institution which teaches in the same language as the joint subject of your degree. So if I'm doing law in Spanish, I'm going to have to go to a Spanish-speaking institution for my 3rd year of study. That's point number 1. So, got to keep in mind, first couple of years, you must acquire a level of proficiency such that you're confident that you can go and live in that language and be examined and study and be taught in that language. But another key thing to note is because we have to shimmy around your subjects in years 1 and 2 in order to make space for the language, it means that your jurisprudence module, that's basically the philosophy of law, what is the nature of rights? What is the relationship between law and morality? Does a valid law have to be morally sound? Was law in Nazi Germany valid law? And in what sense, why? All of these questions, jurisprudence, the philosophy of law, a tricky subject, nobody's favorite subject, unless you are a big brain. That subject, you're going to have to study abroad in your 3rd year. And this can sometimes be a little bit tricky, not insurmountable, not something to really worry about, but it might narrow down the number of institutions that you can go to, because it's not just that you need to go to, for example, a Spanish or French-speaking institution. You must also go to an institution that teaches jurisprudence, because you need that for your qualifying law degree. And the other key point to note is, again, even on a joint program with law and language, the language is not taking up a lot of time. You're basically going to be doing Spanish 1A in semester 1 of your 1st year, Spanish 1B in the 2nd semester of your 1st year. So effectively, in your first couple of years, you're only going to be taking about 4 modules in total in that language. And so therefore, there can be a bit of a leap when you go from your 2nd year straight into a 3rd year in a host institution. Now, of course, You can study the language, and maybe you feel after a couple of years that, you know what, that's as much French or German as Spanish as I want to do. That's fine, I'm glad. In which case, you can transfer into a single honours programme. So, there's flexibility in the course of your studies as well. And those who make that switch, you're not going to graduate with a joint honours degree in law and Spanish, for example. Instead, you would graduate with a degree in law and Spanish studies, law and French studies, which is just basically a way of reflecting your honours years were entirely law-based. Levels 3 and 4, you were only studying law, but you studied another language in your first couple of years, and that's what the law with Spanish studies is meant to reflect. Now, if I do a joint program between law and a non-language subject, again, things change a little bit in that in order to make space for my philosophy, history, English literature, politics, whatever it might be, a little bit like the law and language situation, except it's not jurisprudence that moves into year 3, it's criminal law that moves into semester 1 of year 3. So you won't be getting your qualifying law degree in its entirety until you finish the first semester of your 3rd year. This has a couple of consequences, right? It means that if you're doing law on a joint honours programme, you will not be able to study abroad for a full year in year 3. You'll only be able to study abroad for semester 2 of your 3rd year, because for semester 1, you're going to have to stay in Glasgow and study your criminal law. That's one point to note. So 1 semester abroad, but that's still a good period of time. And another factor is that keep in mind that thank you, Janet. Keep in mind that sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm going to move to questions in a moment, but just keep in mind that by studying law and a language in your 3rd and 4th years, there may be timetable clashes between your law subjects and your language subjects. I'm afraid I've not got round to the topic of graduating and qualifying in Scotland or England and Wales, but we'll maybe cover that in the questions now. I'm so sorry, Janet, for having run over, and I'm sorry, everyone, for having run over. So any questions at all, if you can put them in the chat or the comments, or you can simply ask them. I don't know, Janet, if you want to moderate, or I will, but please, now's the time for panel questions. Yes, I think we are going to be joined with 2 of our common law students, Bestie and Denise, who are both in 3rd year, I believe, been studying on the common law programme. And I believe you're both international students, so you've come to study in Glasgow from elsewhere, so you can have wonderful insight both into the day-to-day life on the programme and also what it's like to live in Scotland. So yes, some real experience. Thank you for joining us. So let's open it to the floor. Any questions from our students, or from prospective students, I should say? Okay, so I can see questions are coming in the comments section. So I'm going to just move through these. If we're doing a joint law degree and have 1 module left to do in 3rd year, does it give a disadvantage when applying for VAC schemes, etc., in 3rd or 4th year, since you haven't done all modules yet? The short answer is no. Mysticia, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But the answer is no. No, there's no such thing as a VAC scheme that will say no because you haven't studied your criminal law yet or your jurisprudence yet, that you're at a disadvantage. In fact, law firms will not look into it to that level of technicality. In fact, they're just interested in why you've studied a joint law degree and what extra transferable skills or life experience that means you can bring to the table. The other consequences for studying with a joint honours degree, Risdon, again, forgive my pronunciation, it's only the point that I made at the very end there about timetabling issues. It could well be that I'm studying law with history and I've got a module in law that I really want to do and a module in history that I really want to do. But they clash from a timetabling perspective, just really bad luck. It's not a common occurrence, but it does happen from time to time. But then again, one of the reasons that it doesn't happen all that commonly is because, as I say, Glasgow is such a large law school that if there's a module that clashes with something else in my joint subject, it's still likely going to be the case that there's going to be quite a closely related module that I can undertake instead. Scott, I'm afraid I can't answer any questions about specific applications, not only because, privacy law and so on and so forth, but I actually don't deal with it. The School of Law doesn't deal with individual applications. You're going to have to get in touch with the admissions service. There's a centralized admissions office in the wider university that deals with all of our admissions queries and so on and so forth. And Janet, I wonder if we could maybe post a link to that page so that your specific inquiries can be directed to the correct people. Chirag, I'm sorry, I actually don't know off the top of my head what the status of our law degree in India is. You catch me at a disadvantage there. I'm going to have to look that up. Please feel free to email me. You'll be able to find me on a Google search. I will look that up and I will get back to you. Sorry about that. Yes, Lindsay, when doing common law, is it possible to do a full year of study abroad in third year? That is correct, so long as you're only doing single honours common law. You'll be able to study abroad in your third year. And of course, as I said, if you're doing joint honours law and language, common law and language, you must study abroad in your third year. So not only is it possible, it's required. And Lucy, there's no rule that says that people in single honours are prioritised for certain modules or anything along those lines. Indeed, this is a general rule. If a module is oversubscribed, basically what they do is they look at the applicants for the module, people who have selected that module, and they go down on the basis of your grades. So if you've got pretty good grades, then you're likely to be selected for the module. As I say, we've got so many modules that this doesn't happen very frequently, but some of the most popular modules, if they are competitive, entry is done on the basis of your grades up to that point, rather than whether you're on a single honours or a joint honours. Hannah, the contact hours per week. We're looking on average for, whether we're on the Scots or Common Law programme, we're looking for about 9 to 12 hours of lectures every week for 11 weeks in the semester. Supplemented by about 3 hours of tutorials, small group teaching, that will happen roughly every fortnight. So week to week, you're going to have not fewer than 9 to 12 hours of lectures, and in certain weeks, those hours of lectures will be supplemented with tutorials, bringing it up to about 15 hours a week of contact time, supplemented, of course, with your own individual study. How feasible is it to commute from Edinburgh for the common law programme? Georgia, honestly, I think that many members of staff do that commute, but it can be a little bit expensive and time-consuming. And sorry, I'm going to go to the script questions here. Forgive me, Denise and Best, sorry, could I interview you? Can I ask you some questions? And maybe that will be the best way for us to to get a grip on what it's actually like to come here and study, because of course you've got experience here that I don't. So I suppose if I can ask two questions of you just to start off, why did each of you choose the University of Glasgow, and why did you choose the Common Law programme? Bess, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. I'm Bessa. I'm a fourth year common law student and I'm from Turkey. So yeah, I'm an international student. The main reason I chose to study in Glasgow was obviously it had incredible ranking for law school. So that was one of my main concerns because I've always wanted to study in an English speaking country. So UK was closer to home than like US or Australia. So UK was my first choice. And then obviously when I was looking for School of Law rankings, Glasgow had a very good ranking. And then I was lucky enough to visit a couple of universities that I was considering. And honestly, I think just coming to Glasgow, meeting some of the staff and having a campus tour from one of the current students, I think that really impacted my decision because everyone was so nice, so helpful. And I just felt like I would be happy studying here. And luckily I was right. But that was why I chose to study in Glasgow. And when it comes to why I chose common law was, I think that was a bit more of a difficult decision because obviously Scots law it is also more popular and common law was a recently new program at the time. But I think one thing was like Scots law seemed a bit more of a commitment for me because obviously I'm an international student and I didn't know if I would study in Scotland or like practice in Scotland and actually qualify as a solicitor. So I didn't want to commit to that. And common law seemed like it was a better opportunity to me, like to get to know other countries, maybe practicing and qualifying in England, maybe in US or Australia or like the Commonwealth countries. So for me, it was a better opportunity just to introduce the law and the law of the common law countries instead of just specializing in one country, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Denise. Same questions to you, please.
Yeah, of course. So like Bess, I also looked at the rankings and I was applying just after lockdown. So I was, because I'm a third year, so I was literally like going in 2021. So I was worried that I wouldn't like the university because I didn't actually get a chance to come and visit, but I was actually really wrong about it. I am enjoying my time here. And I think there were a few reasons why I chose this university. So I think my primary reason was also as an international student because I live in Cyprus, but my parents are from Azerbaijan. So you do expect as an international student to pay a lot of fees, right? So I thought that getting a scholarship from Glasgow University was like a push for me to actually come to this university. And not gonna lie, I haven't even researched that they're offering any scholarships. So I think my advice for all the students would be an international or non-international student to actually look into scholarships, because the scholarship I got was like quite good because it gives you a discount for tuition fees for 4 years. So I thought that was something I would look into that. So that was like my primary reason, I think, and rankings obviously as well. And the reason I chose common law and not Scots law is also like this. I wasn't sure whether I would want to stay here or qualify here as a solicitor. And I would say like back at home, so in Cyprus, it's common law. So I thought it would actually open a lot of doors for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And just quickly, like, although this question isn't on my list, but what did you make of the cultural change coming to live in Scotland? Was it a tough adjustment, or have you enjoyed it? Do you have any thoughts or comments on that side of things?
Well, I don't know about you, Denise, but when I was like first moving to Glasgow, it was during COVID, so I was really scared because obviously it's a big change and it was lockdown. So I was like, am I gonna be able to like even meet anyone? But it was a lot better than what I thought because obviously coming from a more Mediterranean country, it was quite a culture shock. And during lockdown, you can't really meet anyone, and it's a different language, different food. So nothing is what you're used to. But one thing that I'll say is I feel like, especially as an international student, sometimes the comments you hear from your environment in high school, from your teachers, is a bit more like, "Ooh, it's a big change. Are you sure you're going to be able to adapt?" It's not as difficult as you think. Everyone is so lovely. And especially one thing that I found out about Scotland is they are so helpful and so friendly. Like no one will actually like look into you as an international student. You'll just be a normal friend. And it really helped me improve my English a lot, especially studying like law, because the English that you get in high school is obviously a bit more difficult to the English that you use in your daily life. So I think living in Scotland and especially Glasgow, I think it was easier to adapt because it's especially a very friendly and a very international city itself as well. It has a very big international student community. It has many student societies with many international students. So I don't think you'll find it as hard as you initially think it would be. And I would highly recommend, especially joining the student societies in that sense, because I think even meeting with people like you, like international students from a variety of backgrounds, really help you feel a lot more comfortable.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, so I agree with Best. I think I would say the same thing about this city, and I can definitely add to that, and by saying that you do get a lot of support as an international student because we have international student support, and they always do events or some information like sessions for students. So I think it's really important to know that. I also come from a Mediterranean side, so I would say I would expect a culture shock. But I think because I came at a really good time just after lockdown, I did actually experience a lot of like changes, but I think I did adapt to them quite quickly. And I feel like you can never be bored in the city because there's always something going on. And like Besta said, there are a lot of societies. I think we have about 300 clubs and societies. So you'll always find something to do. You'll always find people. And there's actually a saying that says people make Glasgow. And I do agree with that after 3 years of living here. And it is a lovely place to meet everyone. And even though you might experience culture shock because some things are different to compared to when you were growing up, but I do think it's all about adapting to those changes and actually like becoming part of this community.
Thank you. And if I could just observe also that both of you have picked up Scottish accents whilst you're here. So that's another thing to keep in mind, everyone. If you want to leave with a Scottish accent as well as a degree, then this is the place to come. Have either of you studied abroad? No? Yes, did you not study abroad? Okay, so we can't talk about study abroad programs, but Denise, you mentioned a moment ago about clubs and societies. Could you speak a little bit more about your experience of those, please?
Yeah, of course. So we do have a lot of societies, and I was quite interested in a few of them. So I was on the committee for both like Model United Nations Society and Formula One Society. So very two different things, but I really liked that it was an academic and a more fun society, so it could be a good balance. So for Formula One Society, I'm just a huge fan of Formula One, together with my family and friends. So we just organize watch parties, and we're organizing some partnerships. And actually, we were the ones who created the society because it's a new one since last year. So that was a fun thing to do on the weekends, I would say, and some other like social events. With Model United Nations, and it was actually a reason why I applied for law, because I did a lot of Model United Nations conference back at home and abroad as well. So I think doing debating and researching and like enjoying the whole process made me realize how I am passionate about law, and I think this is something I would love to do in the future. So we actually organized a Model United Nations conference here last year together with a great team, and it was the first conference at Glasgow University. And actually a month ago, they organized a second one. So it was really nice to see that the society is growing, and there's always something fun to do. And you might think that if it's an academic society, it's like really boring and too academic, but it's not the case. You do get a lot of like fun bits about it as well. So yeah, I think everyone can find what they're interested in. And even if you're not part of the society, you can still go to their social events. And that's what I do. If my friends are in different societies, I'll still go and support them. And Beste, what part of society are you in?
Yeah, so like similar to you, I did a bunch of like academic societies, such as I'm in the Committee of Lawyers Without Borders this year, which was a lovely experience, just like networking and like having loads of speaker events. But also on the other side, you get to meet a lot of like law students, which you've never seen in your life, because obviously we have quite a lot of students in our class. Even in our year, it's like 200, 250 students, which is sometimes not really possible to meet all of them. And I think academic societies is a very good platform to even just meet your classmates. But on the other hand, there are many like just social societies. And I've been involved in Glasgow Student Dance Company for 4 years. I've been involved in Student Theatre at Glasgow and Sicilians, which is the musical theatre society. And they're more like different, just like socials and just meeting people from different degrees, different backgrounds. And I think they are really good opportunities for you to meet new people. And even if you come from like another country doing other hobbies, maybe you didn't even like focus on law before that much and you're a bit more scared about joining law societies, I think they're the perfect opportunity to keep your interests going. If you're interested in performing arts, if you're interested in a specific film, I think we have like Disney societies, like Shrek Society. So I think they're just so much fun. Or if you want to try something new, I think they're always really nice and everyone is so welcoming. And one thing I really love about the society is like, you can pick your commitment levels. You can be very involved, get involved with the boards, like be involved in the process of organizing the events, or you can just be a normal member, just pop into the events that you like. So you can like arrange your own timetable and no one will judge you if you only pop to like an event every month, and it can be just your thing, the thing that you can de-stress with.
Thank you. And I think the next thing that I need to ask both of you is employability. What sort of resources did you have access to? What help did you have from the school or the wider university when it came to figuring out your next steps and getting work experience fairs, all that sort of thing? How would you rate us for employability? Denise, would you like to take this one first?
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually part of the employability team. So I help them organize events, and we basically organize events for law students, no matter what level you're in, what year you're in. So I would say the employability is great, and I really like being part of that team because I actually get an insight of everything that's happening, and you don't just get an insight of the law field, but you actually you actually gain skills like organization skills, teamwork skills, which are also really essential for law students or just anyone. So there are a lot of events happening. Usually it's networking events, or like we bring lawyers or some other people in the legal field that are there to share their insight with other students. There are obviously perks about it, like you actually get some free food and drinks if you go to one of the events. And I would say the employability team does a really good job by bringing people from everywhere and everything. So that's really important, I think. And I was a bit worried that it was mainly for Scots students, but it's actually not. It's both for common and Scots law students, and I think it's really important, especially like at the university trying to bring people from England. And I think that says a lot about the university and like how much effort they're trying to put as well. The reason I got involved with the employability team is because I'm honestly unsure whether I want to pursue the law career or not, and I think that's okay. Law is still really good degree to have and a good foundation for any student. So I do think it opens a lot of doors. And I think once you are expose yourself to events like that with the employability team, you actually understand what else there in the legal field. It's not just becoming a lawyer. There's so many other things you can do. And I think it's really important to discover those opportunities. So I think that's what the employability team does. And yeah, we also have, I think, Pesta, you can have that, but the bulletin with which we get like I think a few times a month, I think, but you can correct me if that's wrong. And it does suggest a lot of opportunities that students can apply with important deadlines and some like really good insights. And I think it's really important to see that because sometimes law students don't have time to research opportunities, or they might be unsure on where to research as well. So I think it's really important to get some guidance, and I think that's what we're given at the law school here.
Best, anything to add?
Yeah, like very similar things. I agree with everything Denise said. I think the things that are really helpful is we do have like the law fair or the careers fair quite often. So you can just like join those fairs and just meet with like quite a lot of employers, just chat with them, and they're not as formal. So it's like they have stalls and you can just go, and if you're interested in a specific like company or a law firm, you can just go and chat, ask about like the vacation schemes, traineeships, or any specific thing that you're aiming for. And we have like the internship hub and our career services, which you can communicate, arrange like meetings 101. If you want to prep for an interview, for example, there are loads of videos on the career services website. You can like, again, arrange like meetings for them to help with your interviews, or if you have any specific questions. So in that sense, they're very helpful. And same as Denise, I've been working in the School of Law this year. I'm the digital media intern, and I found that internship through Internship Hub, actually. So they're really like helpful in that sense, because as Denise said, you can also find like law-related jobs, traineeships, vacation schemes, but also you can find quite a lot of related jobs. Like you can find things in School of Law, you can find jobs or like internships in the government, or you can find some pro bono work, some volunteering, depending on what you're interested in. But yeah, the Employability Bulletin, I think it's one of the most helpful things, because they would literally list the opportunities available with the deadlines and the links attached. So they have like quite a lot of traineeships available. And around like third year, first semester of third year, you kind of start worrying about applying to traineeships and, you know, finding internships, or even like during summer, some kind of work experience, something to put on your CV or something to do after you graduate. So I think in that sense, they're very helpful. And actually your lecturers would be really helpful as well if you go up to them and ask about, like, if you're applying for something maybe in their field, you can sometimes ask, or sometimes some lecturers are actually carrying out some research or some projects, and sometimes you can get involved with them, you can help out. Or I've heard, especially in like the honors programs, there are some lecturers who were like starting up their own firms or doing some pro bono work. So you can always get involved with them, and sometimes the lecturers will open the platform to you as well. So I'd say the employability sense is quite helpful, especially if you focus on researching. They will have a lot of resources for you to look into.
Thank you both. And another thing just to touch upon is that we have alumni not only in Scotland, but in law firms across the world as well. It seems that a degree from the University of Glasgow, with people in Australia, South Africa, the United States, Canada, as well as London, of course, big financial hubs. So it sucks up a lot of labour from the rest of the UK. So we do have a large number of alumni networks. And so two things: you're confident that your degree can travel, you can be confident that your degree will travel, but we also have these alumni networks that can help little aspects of employability and so on and so forth. I think we've covered the main themes, everyone, but I suppose I just wanted to round off with do you have any advice, reflecting upon your experience of the program and your experience of living and working in Glasgow? Do you have any advice to prospective students? Something that, you know, you can some advice that you can give them as someone who's walked the path for a while now, both in your program and in Glasgow. What would you like them to know that they won't know at the minute?
Well, I'd say one of the first things is maybe a bit more different to high school is the tutorials in the first 2 years. And obviously, when I joined the School of Law, it was during lockdown, so they were online. So maybe it was a bit of a different platform. But sometimes it can be scary as a first year to put yourself forward and answer questions or even ask questions. I think one of the first things to know about tutorials is you don't need to stress. As long as you do your prep, do your readings, it is okay to be wrong, and none of your lecturers or tutors will actually be mad at you or anything like that. It is a different atmosphere compared to high school. So as long as you have your readings done, no one will expect you to go above and beyond and like solve the law of problems and do a reform. It's okay to sometimes answer it wrong, or if you have questions, don't be scared if it's a silly question or if the lecturer will judge you or anything like that. because they're always so helpful. And honestly, in the last 4 years, I haven't experienced anything bad about them. Like, no one will shout at you or anything like that. So don't be scared to put yourself forward. It is the same with like the student societies. Just be confident that everyone is in the same boat as you are. You're not alone in this. Everyone in that tutorial, everyone in that student society, there will be loads of freshers. So just don't be scared to meet new people, to network, to ask questions, because everyone is so welcoming. And as long as you do your part, everyone will be more than happy to help you out.
Well, yeah, that's a very academic advice. So I would say academic advice is needed in terms of like being in the law school, because as I said, like I did Model United Nations, and I thought debating and like all the fun part of the Model United Nations is something I will actually experience at school, at uni. Obviously, that did not happen. So I did have a reality check when it came to uni. But I think what I realized is a few things. Like, firstly, it's really important to be self-disciplined, because it's not a school where people push you to actually like study, prepare for like seminars and tutors and lectures and stuff. So yeah, and it gets better like with year by year, I think, because in first and second year I did struggle quite a bit. I think it's because you do more modules, you do have more contact hours, and yeah, you do get a mixture of lectures and tutorials. And in third year and fourth year you do seminars, and you have less contact hours, but they're more interactive, and there's more reading to do for them. So I would say it's just like being self-disciplined, and just, you know, having like that time management skill that is really important. I'm not here like to say that I've got the best time management skills, but I can definitely say that I'm improving, which is a good thing. And I would say, like we said, like we're international students, so coming here and writing like 3,000 word essays was a bit extreme. So I think it's really important to take every single opportunity that you can. So, for example, university offers essay writing classes, or like again, if you're looking to like applying for internships, like vacation schemes or traineeships, like just take the opportunity of getting help from university. So I think it's really important to do that, and we always have a student support officer at the law school who is there for us as well, because I think it's really important to point out. Because in the first and second year I was really scared to actually ask for help, and like because I thought it would be inappropriate, or like Bestie said, like ask questions. I don't know. I was really scared, I think. And only third year I was like, no, like it's for my future. Like I gotta like just, you know, study hard, but also like ask all the questions I have and stuff. So yeah, and my advice would be also like have fun. I think, which is really important. Even with this degree, it is really important to have fun and make memories with your schoolmates or like your new mates at university. So I think it's really important to create those memories, but also obviously study hard. Yeah, I think it's just all about balance at the end of the day. So have fun, but also study hard. As they say, study hard, but party harder. But maybe not in the first few years, I would say. And yeah, I think something that I wish I knew is you should do well in first and second year, because yeah, like as Adam Riley said, that your grades actually count when you apply for internships and vacation schemes. So yeah, I think first and second year were quite transitional for me, so I found it quite difficult. So and then everyone told me that it's okay, it doesn't go to your transcript, don't worry, as long as you pass. Well, don't listen to those people. Do well every year, and yeah, all the best to you guys.
Yes, thank you both. And thank you for coming along. Thank you for giving your insights to our prospective students. I wonder if we have any time to answer any further questions in our comments, in our comment section. Lucy, I can see one there. Where do we find alumni networks? Lucy, the alumni networks are sort of quasi-formal and informal. I won't say anything here, but I know we have some formal discussions with law firms to have a formal relationship, but it's mostly informal. I was maybe making 2 points there that got clamped together. One is that you will find our graduates across the world in law firms, but also that we have good contacts with our alumni. And sometimes this can result in just ad hoc events, career advice from people who have gone into a certain area of law and so on and so forth. Yeah, a LinkedIn situation. That's Risden, transfers between programs are not allowed. Put it that way. We are looking into the process behind potentially changing that, but that change is not on the cards for a long time. And effectively, both programs, it's been built into our regulations as well. There is a brick wall between Scots and common law, and you really have to choose between them carefully before you embark upon your program. In the law course catalog, do you know what FR? FR is just our own internal administrative code to reflect the fact that that module is studied by students on our accelerated cohort. It is completely meaningless. You know, criminal law FR is exactly the same as criminal law because from a lecture standpoint, our accelerated students and our undergraduate students both have the same sets of lectures. It's just that our accelerated students will get their own tutorials, and that's what FR is meant to be doing. But from your perspective, it doesn't mean anything. I think this is maybe a little too soon to be getting work experience. I don't know whether you mean work experience generally or legal work experience specifically. Of course, if they want to have, by all means they should, but only if they want to. Certainly from a hard-nosed career perspective, law firms are not expecting young people to have acquired legal work experience before undertaking their degree. And MH, if you're doing a joint degree, are you doing the full degree for both? No, you're effectively doing 50% of your credits. You're earning 50% of your credits from law and 50% of your credits from the other degree. And those combined credits, technically what gets you a degree from the University of Glasgow or any program in the UK, are that you've studied a number of credits. So I think it's 460 credits across 4 years. So half of those credits will be from law and half from the other subject. Are either of you doing a joint degree? No, just straightforward law. Okay. That's Isha. I don't think so. No. There is a debate you can watch on YouTube that's maybe a good 5 or 6 years old now, between Lord Sumption, who of course used to be on the UK Supreme Court, and Professor Graham Virgo of the University of Cambridge. And the debate was, if you want to be a lawyer, should you study a law degree? And Lord Sumption was making the argument, do not study a law degree. Maybe this is not great for me to be talking about here, but the point is he was saying that, you know, you can get a great degree of life experience and insight from studying something other than law, and that experience actually helps you in your subsequent career in practice. Now, Graham Virgo had very strong arguments for why you would want to do a law degree in the first place, but certainly not. Remember, as an undergraduate, although it's 4 years of studying law, you really are scratching the surface in many respects of the subjects that you study. What makes you valuable to a firm is your life experience, your intellect, your curiosity, your gumption, your determination, and so on and so forth. A lot of your expertise you can cultivate in an undergraduate law program, but really law firms are hiring you because you've got the skills and personality traits to become a specialist. They're not hiring you because you are already a specialist by virtue of your undergraduate law degree. So I would say whether it's single honors or joint honors, it's purely a question of personal preference. One is not better for your career prospects over the other. Good grades, some work experience, and a sense of determination, and you'll be well sorted. I think that is us running out of time now. So let me just thank both of our students, Best and Denise, for coming along and sharing their invaluable experience. It's wonderful to hear that you've had such an enjoyable time, and that you can give the benefit of your insight to our prospective students. And I hope to see some of you joining us in September this year forthcoming, or indeed the year after that. At some point, I hope to see you at the University of Glasgow.